Hello aspirants, welcome to this series of podcasts by Vajiram Ravi. This is Pooja Singh. Today the discussion will revolve around that what the right optional is and how economics comes in the picture. And for this discussion, we have today our esteemed faculty member with us, Shyam Sunder sir. He holds more than 10 years of teaching experience in this particular field. Sir, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
So for the start, please give us a brief introduction about yourself so that students will know that what godly light is shedding on them.
I would call it an exaggeration, the godly light, but yes, I'm holding a decent experience in teaching economics. I have been an alumnus of the Delhi School of Economics. I did my master's from there. And I have been working in the corporate sector for some time after it. Then I came back to my original interest of teaching, and for almost 16-17 years now I've been in the field of teaching. I have taught in a number of colleges, the colleges in University of Delhi. The undergrad students, different type of papers have been taught by me. Like Indian economy, econometrics, macroeconomics, all of that more or less. And in the meantime, just one more thing to share. I qualified Indian Economic Service exam of 2007, which for some interest of teaching, I didn't join. I had appeared for UPSC exam, went till interview also, and somehow again, perhaps the fate was more that I'll be in the teaching line, so I'm here. So that's about my brief introduction regarding the subject.
Sure, sir. So it's a great honor to sit with you today and have this discussion. Starting with the optional questions again, sir. Sir, what is the right optional and how economics comes in the picture?
As the word optional itself is telling that you have to opt for it.
Yes.
And the word opt is also important and you is also important. So basically you should be opting what is your correct optional. Even if you can take guidance from a number of teachers or the parents, even depending upon what interest they have seen in you since your childhood days and your background, obviously. The background plays a very important role in choosing your optional. Last but not the least, your interest in the subject. So it's a combination of all of that. Some guidance, some background, some interest, etc. But my idea is that end of the day, you should apply all this in a formula and the result has to be given by you. It should be finally your call. I strongly believe in that because later on you should not be blaming someone else that due to you I choose the wrong optional. That is why in my classes also I frankly tell the students that this is not the only subject. You may have a better one in your list. So you can attend a few classes and also confirm whether this is the subject that you find interest in. So to put it very briefly now, one is background. If you have background in economics, then clearly economics is a very ideal optional, particularly to those people who have background from a very good university. Even if the university is not so well known, it is possible that the student may be very serious. And secondly, the interest. As far as economics is concerned, many students from non-economics background are highly interested. And we have seen they have scored more marks in economics than the ones who have the background in economics. So actually interest matters a lot. And this is how economics can be chosen. When you are doing economics in GS, whether you find it interesting or not, or in general, the editorials that you are reading, whether you are finding interesting or not, these are some of the benchmarks you can use for taking economics as an optional. Plus the NCERT books of standard 12th, like whatever we do in GS is more of paper 2 type of discussion. In NCERT book, you will see more of paper 1 like discussion, microeconomics, macroeconomics. There must be good deal of interest in those things also before choosing economics as an optional.
So let's say someone has made up their mind to choose economics as optional. And definitely this is a technical subject, a logical subject. So background is needed, right? So what particularly are we talking about when we say background is important to choose this subject?
Okay, let me explain. What happens is that there are different universities which have different syllabus.
Yes.
There are some parts which are overlapping with, say, University of Delhi syllabus, some parts overlapping with, say, other universities' syllabus. So, no matter which university the student has done his graduation or PG from, generally they find there are certain things which are new in the syllabus of UPSC. That's one thing. Even if things are same, the way of study may be different. To give you an example, in University of Delhi, most of the subjects are taken up in a highly mathematical manner. Like when microeconomics is done or even macroeconomics is done, the questions which are asked in the exam are highly mathematically oriented, which is not the case in UPSC.
Okay.
There is some mathematical aptitude needed, but very less. On the other extreme, in some universities, there may be too much descriptive way of doing it. The same thing, micro, macro, and they have no idea about what can be the mathematical interpretation. The UPSC exam is somewhere in between. It needs a lot of descriptive things also, which you have to write down, and also the mathematical part plus the graphical part. So in the class, I make sure, since I have myself taught in University of Delhi, and I have appeared for this exam, so I have a fair idea about what kind of questions are asked here. I try to maintain a balance between the two. Okay, so that is the reason why, even if you have a background, sometimes classes will be extremely helpful.
True, sir. So when we talk about the syllabus of economics optional, so how would you describe it, and what are the major areas that we cover in this optional subject?
Okay, so let me go paper wise, because the two papers are very different. Paper 1 is about what we call economic theories. Okay. And just to clarify, theory is different from what we commonly understand. Okay, in our common language, theory means writing a lot, but we call it descriptive actually. Okay. Theory means proposing some kind of a result in a setup, which we call sometimes in economics modeling, etc. also. So there will be theory on how consumers behave, etc. and so on. So in paper 1, there are 4 main parts, which are mostly economic theories: microeconomic theories, macroeconomic theories, international economics theories, and growth and development theories. These are 4. The first 2 are more fundamental. Micro and macroeconomics are 2 main branches of economics. After that, whatever we do is a combination of that in some particular framework. Like international economics will be combination of micro and macro theories on international economics. Same for growth and development. So 4 main parts we have there. Okay, one more thing. The topics like money banking, I'm taking as a part of macroeconomics here, because the approach is very macroeconomics. Similarly, public finance or taxation, etc. are more microeconomic. So I didn't tell that separately. This is paper 1. Paper 2 is Indian economy, which is divided in 3 main parts: the pre-independence Indian economy, the economic history that we call, the post-independence Indian economy till 91, and then the post-91 Indian economy. So that is how the paper 2 is there. More or less in all these 3, the broader areas are similar. Like we have to do how agricultural sector was doing pre-independence, then post-independence, then post-91. Similarly, what type of industries India had pre-independence, then post-independence, then post-91. Particularly post-independence and post-91 are very much in continuity. Pre-independence is slightly separate because of the colonial nature of economy. There were many differences in the Indian economy, but otherwise there is a lot of continuity throughout the paper 2. I hope as a brief that is fine.
That totally works, sir. Sir, I have heard this myth around the students that the syllabus is very vast, or it takes a lot of time to cover it. So what according to you is the time duration that is needed to cover the syllabus of economics optional?
Okay. I will not completely disagree that its syllabus is large. Okay. So I don't want to mention anything which will kind of attract student on the basis of the fact that syllabus is less. Syllabus is decent, particularly of paper 1. I think paper 2 is relatively easier because in any case it is overlapping with GS. And paper 1 and 2 are also interconnected. So when I say paper 1 syllabus is vast, many a times what we do in paper 1 can be applied in paper 2 also. For example, when I do international economics theory, we can apply it in international economy of Indian, in the Indian context. So that way it is there. Yes, it takes good deal of time. So here I take classes for at least 5 months, depending upon some of the vacations that we may have in between. It may take slightly more also. So I think those who are coming for the economics optional classes should keep 6 months as the time period roughly which we may take. Time is also devoted by me on PYQ discussions. So after I cover every part, like when I cover microeconomics, I devote time on PYQ and so on. So that also takes a lot of time. But then it is good for students also. Rather than doing just the syllabus, they should also be linking it with the previous year questions. So I would say keep your 6 months reserved. Within that, surely we'll finish the syllabus, and time will be more because we cover it thoroughly. My idea is that at least in paper 1, students should be able to answer questions merely from my class notes.
Yeah.
Okay, that is what I try my best. Paper 2 is slightly subjective, so making that promise will be slightly misleading because Indian economy by nature is slightly dynamic, it's changing. Still, I try to make sure even in paper 2, most questions are kind of covered from the class notes only. So then you have to give the time. That's the point.
Indeed, sir. Sir, when we talk about economics as an optional, so how it helps in this whole UPSC journey? We know it is a very technical or say intellectual subject, so it is fun to read it. But how is it going to help in this whole UPSC journey with other GS papers as well?
Okay, a lot. There is a lot of overlapping syllabus between the GS and the economics. So let's start with prelims.
Sure, sir.
I'm sure most of the students know about 20 questions come from economics and prelims. I'm not telling that for all that you have to take economics optional, but roughly half of the questions which are conceptual, which you have to kind of work out in the examination hall, an economics optional student is clearly having a better chances of reaching the correct answer. As I told you, sometimes due to interest, even non-economics optional do very well. That I'm not claiming. But in prelims, conceptual questions can be handled better by the economics optional student. That's the first thing. Let's come to the mains exam. Most of the questions in economics come in paper 3. That is again where we make sure that in GS we teach all that. But at the same time, when you have economics optional, you clearly have an edge. You can quote more data through your economics optional syllabus. You can quote some of the theories behind the questions which are coming, which will clearly make your answer different from a common answer. So for example, if there is a question on employment and unemployment in mains, if you quote a couple of theories which are there from macroeconomics, okay, that 1 or 2 sentences will improve the quality of your answer. Or if you can quote data from the paper 2. So that's one thing. Economics questions are coming in paper 2 also. In fact, the number of questions are rising. And again, the similar way it is helping out. The theories can be quoted. We had a question in paper 2 a couple of years back on trade-off between inflation and unemployment. I would rate it as a tough question for a non-economics background student. But in economics optional, we do the theories of inflation versus unemployment trade-off in detail. The monetarist theory, the Friedman theory on that, many of you would have heard of Phillips curve, which was proposed by the monetarist theory. They help you a lot. So when you quote these things, that makes your answer better in quality. Last but not least, in paper 1, when they ask some questions in history, technically these are questions of history, but some of these questions may be linked to economic history also. Like questions on drain of wealth, commercialization of agriculture, deindustrialization. Okay, when you have done economic history part in paper 2, clearly you have better way of writing the answers on that. Like quoting data on deindustrialization and commercialization will clearly improve the quality of the answer. Although in essay paper, traditionally economics is not very popularly a part of topic, but sometimes they do ask where some social economic aspects can be handled better. Like in essay, the terms like inequality, poverty, etc. can be there. That is where the better essays can be written when you have also an idea of the economic theories on inequality, poverty, etc. So, and end of the day, when you appear for interview, by the way, anyone can get questions around economy in interview, particularly if you have economics optional, but even if not, the questions are likely to come on what's happening in economy these days, the current affairs. So any day the optional students are better able to handle that kind of surprising question. So I think I've given the whole journey that way.
Definitely. So economics is a subject that many students see as a very respectable subject. When you quote data from this area, you actually are seen as a very intellectual person, even when you said like in the interview. So when we talk about the syllabus, we also talked about it earlier that mathematics is involved in some way or other. So does one need to be brilliant in mathematics? Because in paper 1, it has a lot of inclusion, right? So does one need to be brilliant in that?
Okay, let me answer that. Actually, there is mathematical aptitude which is clearly needed when you are appearing, taking economics as an optional, because there are some derivations, etc. Although these derivations are kind of very on a set pattern. Once you derive it once, then you don't need to innovate a lot mathematically. Okay. Yes, some mathematical concepts are needed. If a student has mathematics till standard 12th, then there is no new mathematical concepts which are needed. Yes, it is possible that they may have forgotten some of them. And that is the reason why in the beginning only I devote 2 to 3 classes only on mathematical concepts needed in optional.
Okay.
So I start with economics, but then within a week or so, I spend 2-3 classes purely on mathematics, because I know many students don't have background. Some of them have done it till standard 10th. Even those who have done it till 12th are sometimes nervous in mathematics. So to remove that barrier, I do that. On the other extreme, we have engineers and students from DU who have done too much of mathematics. They need to scale down it a little. Okay. Because those things are not needed in the exam, so you don't need to go into that much of detail also. But I know the bigger challenge is that those people who don't have mathematical background, I won't misguide you, mathematical aptitude will be needed, okay? But I take classes on that, and in most of the years batches I have an experience that students generally get comfortable that way. Okay, more important are graphs, etc. than mathematics, and comfort with drawing graphs, etc. is a must for economics optional.
Okay.
Okay.
So when we talk about economics, so what are the books that one should refer, the basic books before one chooses this optional? Okay. They are going to enroll for the classes. What are the basic things that they should keep in mind that before coming the classes, they should read these things?
Okay. Actually, we begin with microeconomics. Now, the small problem with microeconomics syllabus is that there is no one book which is covering everything according to UPSC. So in class, I make sure that I take parts from different books and then kind of collect it in a manner that is fruitful for UPSC. And I generally, that is why I give a booklet also briefly on microeconomics at least, because I know that there is no one resource. Still, on microeconomics, one of the best book is by A. Kotsenis. Okay, that's a very old book. Modern Microeconomics is the name of the book by Kotsenis. If someone wants to read before my classes, I would advise them to read macroeconomics first, because compared to microeconomics, macroeconomics syllabus is much well structured. and the chances that students will be reading those things which are not needed is less. In macroeconomics, there is a book by Richard T. Froyen, Froyen, Richard T. Froyen. That's a very good book. So if someone is kind of reading the books before the classes start, I think Froyen book would be the best one. That is easily available, and they can start. In fact, if they read that book, even if they don't take economics as an optional, their understanding of GS economy will be better.
Okay.
Because most of the GS part which we do, the Indian economy part, that's linked to macroeconomics only. The things like how do we interpret national income, employment, etc. That is in any case done in GS. So I would say Froyen would be a good book. Let me quote a few more books if in case that is helpful.
Sure.
On international economics, there is a book by Dominic Salvatore. So Salvatore book has been very important since our student days and is still an excellent book on international economy. Growth and development faces the same problem as microeconomics. There is no one book where I can give you everything. So there are a couple of books like AP Therwal book on growth and development, which is an excellent book. But then I bring a number of other books and materials to teach that in the class. So all these things would be difficult to be stated in brief here. As far as paper 2 is concerned, in references, Uma Kapila is a good one. There is a book on Indian economy by the author Uma Kapila, which is basically the putting all the readings of DU on Indian economy together, and that's actually very helpful. There is a book by the name of Oxford Companion, edited by a noted economist Kaushik Basu. That's also very helpful. But again, in order to support that, I give a number of other articles also in paper 2 also. Articles from EPW, articles from newspapers also, in order to make it better. So each and every reference would be difficult to be told, but still I think I'm reasonably clear.
Sure, sir. I guess students will be handful of number of resources we have provided.
Yes.
So when we say scores in mains, right? Is it possible to score very high, like very good with economics as an optional? And if it is, then how is economics optional performing in past few years? What is the performance of economics
Let me
optional?
answer that.
Yeah.
As I told you, paper 1 is very objective, logical. There are some numericals also sometimes asked on that, the basic mathematical one. These things make paper 1 highly scoring. Paper 2 is also scoring actually. Okay. There is a myth that paper 2 is not scoring, but we have seen those students who write to the point answers, don't beat around the bush and understand the requirement of the question. Even in paper 2, they do very well. I think it is a case with more or less every optional subject that some students don't get very good marks, some students get very high marks. As far as economics is concerned, in my knowledge, more or less for a number of years, one of the top 10 rankers are from economics. Okay. If not top 10, definitely in top 20, we find some of them. So last year, the 13th ranker. A couple of years ago, my old student from DU, Yash Jaluka, had got the 4th rank. If I talk about slightly longer, say a decade earlier, we had 2 top rankers, the rank number 1 from economics optional. So both of them topped with economics optional without any background. So the idea is that they are not very visible in last 7-8 years, I agree. But then that is due to other reasons also, like the number of applicants itself are less.
Definitely.
So we do statistics, we apply it also.
Yes, sir.
So any result in statistics is significant when the numbers are very high. So I think somewhere or the other, the economics optional students are not significant statistically speaking. And those who clear prelims, they have a very good chance of at least going till the interview stage. Okay. And even passing the final hurdle and qualifying for it. We see more number of students from other optional because the number of applicants are also high. So when you take the figure of success percentage, I feel still economics has double-digit success percentages for most of the year, which I think is rare in most of the optionals. I'm not telling there is no other optional, but it is one of those where reasonably high success rates are there. Okay.
Definitely, sir. This justifies like economics as a very good optional. Sir, economics, as we already talked, that it is a logical subject, right? Even though you have background in this, you definitely need guidance, right? Because at academic level, it was different, but when you choose economics as an optional subject, it is different. So, what according to you, how important guidance or mentorship is, or what is the role of teacher in economics optional, and how at Vajiram and Ravi, with your unique teaching style, we are going to fulfill that?
Okay. I would be a little repetitive, but fine. It would be helpful only. The role of teacher and the role of classes, basically, apart from that. As I told you earlier also, that we have many people from economics background, but they are from different universities. Some of them have too mathematical economics, some of them too less mathematics.
True.
UPSC comes somewhere in between, and that is where the role of classes and teacher comes in. So, since here I'll be teaching more or less everything interconnected, I'll be able to give you enough examples of how we are linking it, like how paper 1 can be linked with paper 2, paper 2 can be linked with paper. So while writing answer in paper 2, we can use something in paper 1 that I'll be talking about, and even vice versa. When we are writing an answer in paper 1, if needed, we can give examples from Indian economy. These things you will generally not find in the textbooks. So, for example, when you read Macroeconomics by Freund, that's an excellent book. But then these books are typically written with a viewpoint of a developed country. Sometimes in UPSC, they expect how much of that can be applied for a developing country like India. So that is what we'll be discussing in the class a lot. Okay, the interlinkage part, that will also be helpful in GS a lot. When you are writing the GS answers, if you can quote a theory, that would be a lot helpful for that. That is the main role of teacher according to me. Secondly, as I told you, those who are weak in mathematics, I try to ensure that they understand that properly. After finishing the syllabus also, many students with background in economics find PYQs difficult to solve, because many a times the wording of PYQ is slightly confusing. So in the class, we discuss how a particular PYQ can be interpreted in the context of what we have already done. So sometimes it is merely a choice of words which confuses the students in the examination. Even if the student may be aware of a theory, the way that it is written in the question, he or she may be confused. So these things I try to explain in the class again and again. Since I have a fair idea of the questions which have been asked, I keep on telling that, okay, the same question can come in this way or the other way. And in fact, I also invite the students to give their interpretations. That way it becomes a good learning interactive experience. Very frankly, I also keep on learning a lot from students, because everyone have their own background, have their own expertise. So I always welcome something new which can be added by them also, something which can be used to help the other students separately. So it is this interactive learning which is the beauty of this, the teaching and studying there, and also learning the subject in an innovative manner. But yes, the most basic focus will be on the type of questions which are coming and how the students from different background can be brought together. Okay, and one more thing, this is about those who have background. Those who don't have background, clearly for them, my class notes will be the first-hand experience of economics. So I often hear from the non-economics background student talking to the economics background student and telling that even in our colleges, we didn't had that better idea about the things which are being done. So that is the basic point which I want to realize, that even those who have background kind of agree that it couldn't have been done in a better way. to link the different papers. And the focus will obviously on the PYQs end of the day. So
Definitely, sir.
that's the...
I would agree with that. When I was watching that session with Yash Cholka, your student, he definitely was praising you a lot and your notes, and definitely that adds up to it. So now I would put you in a critically difficult situation now. Let's say there is a statement you have to give that how is economics optional at Vajiram and Ravi as a step above the rest, or say, students will have it all here. How would you say that?
Okay, so basically, do you want to ask how will be different from, say, some of the other institutes or other mentors?
Yes.
Okay. Although I shouldn't comment too much on how it is being covered in other institutes or by other teachers. As I told you, no one is perfect in his or her own way. There may be better teachers than me, and I completely agree. I would like to learn from them. Okay. But what makes the institute different, or the way that we make our effort to teach different, is that we try to be very honest with covering each and every part of syllabus. I know that seems very basic, but believe me, there are various teachers who do not cover each and every part of it.
True.
So sometimes we see there is one part done, on the other either handout is given, or students are expected to do it themselves and so on. That I can assure that in the class we'll be touching upon each and every part of the subject. Okay, we won't be leaving everything. Just for example, many teachers take economic history very lightly.
True.
Okay, kind of which many economic students consider also as so-called boring part of economics, which actually is not the case according to me. I firmly believe that unless you are aware of history of any particular country, you cannot talk about the present and the future also, and that applies to economics also. So, for example, you cannot understand the challenges to Indian agriculture right now also, unless you are aware of how Indian agriculture was before independence. So that helps you a lot. So I would say the most important thing which we take care of is we cover each and every part of syllabus properly, one. Secondly, my separate classes on mathematics, in my knowledge, I don't know that most of the teachers are taking them up, separate classes. In fact, many a times it is told to the students that you don't need mathematics, you can just come, okay, and join economics. And then they join, and then they realize that they were misguided. That's why I don't want to misguide you. The fact is fact. They are asking numericals sometimes, and that is a fact. Anyone can confirm from PYQ. Thankfully, numericals have not been asked as compulsory question except 1 year. Okay, I do remember only 1 year, maybe some 3-4 years ago, when they asked numerical in a compulsory question. Other than that, it is always what students can leave. Okay, although I encourage them to attempt because it makes it more scoring.
Yeah.
In numerical, if you follow all the steps, solve it properly, you can get, say, out of 20, 18 marks, 19, or if examiner is very liberal, even 20. If I'm checking something and each and everything has been taken care of, I won't even shy away from giving a full marks in a numerical. But fine, even if not 20, 18, 17 is reasonable. In a descriptive answer, getting a 13, 14 out of 20 is challenging. In a descriptive answer, getting 12, 13 marks is like excellent answer. Okay. And say 14 or 15 is like out of the world answer. Okay. That kind of a thing. That way numericals can be actually giving you good marks and make you more scoring in the optional subject. So that is why I focus on mathematical part. Thirdly, there are many places where graphs, etc. are kind of made once, saved in PDF, and just kind of reproduced before the students. And that is difficult for student because it's not just a graph that I just reproduce. For that, anyone can look into a book also. Okay.
True.
The process of drawing that graph. Okay, how are we labeling it? What are the basic things that should be taken care of? Formal and informal. Because books would never tell you informal way of what you should take care of in the graph. Okay, so I do tell them time to time that, okay, when you are drawing a graph, particularly some of the most difficult graphs which are in, say, market forms in microeconomics, like the whole monopolistic competition, I try to inform them that what are the minor details that you should take care of. Because what happens, by the time they are appearing for the exams, they have to somewhere keep in their mind hundreds of graphs. And practically it is impossible for anyone to remember each and everything. So when they have done it in the class, then when they have drawn the graphs with me, that clearly makes them better able to draw graphs in the examination. And that is why the economics background students are more comfortable doing it, because they would have drawn it earlier also. In the optional classes, I draw further, okay, and that makes it easier for them. Thirdly, I write a lot, even in my GS classes. So students get ample time to make their notes, etc. Okay, I feel that this interactive process of listening, writing, kind of makes more than half of your preparation in the class itself.
True.
What is left is just going back home, revising it immediately, and then leaving it near the exam. Then you can revise and immediately go in the class. So this is what I learned from my experience as a student also, how the different teachers mattered for us. So I make sure that I write a lot, I draw all the graphs in the class. That is one of the reasons I told you be prepared for 6 months. Okay, because it takes time. Yeah. Okay, it's not that easy that you just come and draw it, making sure that everyone in the class is following. So time will be taken, but it will be made sure that you are made more or less perfect for appearing in this exam. I think these are the main differences which will make compared to the other mentors, other institutes, etc.
Definitely. So that was very insightful. And I hope we gave a clarification to the students, being at the background, being regarding the mathematics and all the things. So in few words, concluding words, and also welcoming words to the students who are going to join our optional program, please say something for those students.
Okay. Think like an economist.
Okay.
Because whether you have economics as your optional or not or anything, when I say think like an economist, actually I'm telling you something more than many of you would have thought. What I didn't tell in this entire discussion is that most of the students take economics as highly analytical subject, which it is. Okay, logical, somewhat mathematical, graphical, everything is there, and that is truth also. But finally, the goal of economics is to solve the regular problems that you and me face. Okay, the regular problems that are faced in the countries like poverty, inequality, or how to provide better education. Basically, the fundamental goal of economics is to uplift the deprived people and ensure that they are indulged in a self-sustainable manner, in such a manner that they can be self-dependent. That is the overall goal of economics. I know it sounds a little surprising because these are some of the common things that we do in social issues, etc. But actually, economics and social issues have a lot of overlapping things. Like we have in microeconomics a part called welfare economics. One must have heard of Professor Amartya Sen having done a lot of work in welfare economics, like on poverty alleviation, etc. So one of the main goals of economics is to ensure welfare for all. Okay, so in that context, economics is a good bridge between the analytical part, somewhat mathematical or other logical part, plus with the goal that how to uplift the less privileged sections of society. So when I said think like an economist, I meant be analytical enough to look at things objectively. Don't get swayed away by the emotions. Okay, because emotions are good, but emotions don't solve the problem. You have to be analytical also. But at the end of it, you should be very empathetic towards the less privileged people. That analytics should not be used to kind of satisfy your ego that look how analytical I am. Okay, it should be used in order to uplift those sections of society which are in need of some kind of a help. And that is the reason I strongly feel that the bureaucrats, when they actually go to the ground and have economics optional, this training helps them a lot. Okay, it is not just that they should be thinking of the welfare of people. Economics helps them to think more analytically and think of out-of-the-box solutions. Something which may not have been in the typical textbooks of public administration, that how to solve something. And someone from the background like economics can actually think on those lines. And that is how I think the future bureaucrat should have more and more people from economics background and economics optional. So that would be my interpretation of think like an economist. And I think that is it from my side.
Sure, sir. So the idea is back to basics for the very goal you were going to prepare for UPSC.
Yes.
To solve the social issues, like you're very cool for becoming a bureaucrat.
Correct.
Economics is going to help you.
Definitely.
So I hope this session was as amazing as we always promise, and we are able to clarify all the doubts you were having regarding economics optional. We will be back with such amazing sessions again and again. Until then, you have to do just one thing, that is keep studying. Thank you all. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much.